Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force JTF. My name is Chaim Ben Pesach. On this program, we're going to be talking about how the heroic Serb Christians are resisting the attempt by the Albanian Muslim terrorists and their allies in the world community to create an independent Muslim terrorist state in Kosovo, and how this should set an example for all of us, and how we have to back up the heroic Serb Christians now as they're resisting. We have to support the Serb Christian resistance to this evil plan, and why it's so important to all of us. But before we do that, these are the evening times we're on the air for QPTV viewers. These are the daytimes we're on the air for QPTV viewers. This is our great forum that we urge everybody to join. Let me just say that we've spoken many times over the years about why it is so dangerous, why it's such a disaster to have the Albanian Muslim terrorists set up another Albanian Muslim terrorist state in Kosovo. And by the way, you know, it's amazing. The Albanian Muslims already have a nation called Albania. They need a second Albania. This is like a second Albania. I mean, this is just the most evil, immoral, outrageous land grab imaginable. They're just stealing Serb territory. It's just outright stealing of Serb territory. It's an obscenity. But having said that, the heroic Serb Christians are resisting and doing what they can to try to stop and fight this, because disgracefully the United States government, that imbecile George Bush and the United States government disgracefully have recognized this independent Muslim terrorist state in Kosovo, which is a mortal danger not only to the survival of Serbia, it's a mortal danger to the survival of Greece and Hungary, Romania, and all of Europe, because this Muslim cancer is spreading all over Europe. This is a very dangerous action. And the European and American leaders that have recognized this have betrayed their own countries and their own people. And so how have the Serb Christians reacted? You saw massive protests in Belgrade, and that was wonderful. I think it was wonderful to see those massive Serb Christian protests. And it doesn't matter if the media and the State Department and the UN and all these other groups want to condemn these Serbs for fighting back. Don't pay attention to that. Let me give a message to our Serb friends. You have to keep the pot boiling. You've got to keep the protests going. Now, you had mass protests in Belgrade. That was good. Now you've had big protests by the heroic Serb Christians who live in Kosovo, because you have about 150,000 Serb Christians who live in Kosovo, even though they're being pushed out and persecuted and murdered and terrorized by the 2 million Albanian illegal aliens, Albanian Muslim illegal aliens that have come there and invaded their country. You have a huge invasion of foreign Albanians who have come into Serb territory in Kosovo and have taken over the whole area. And so you have 2 million Albanian Muslims against 150,000 Serb Christians. Not a very fair fight. But these 150,000 Serb Christians are so brave. They're fighting back, and they're taking control and taking parts of Kosovo and saying, we're not going to recognize this and we're not giving anything up. You know, this is a very, very brave group of people. And these heroic people have to continue their resistance. They have to resist what's going on. Because if this can pass by with tranquility, if this goes through and the Serb protests die down and everything stops and little by little the Serbs start to accept it, if God forbid that happens, then that is a disaster for Serbia and for Europe. That's a disaster for all of us. The only way this can be stopped is if we prove that this will not be tolerated, that we're going to keep the pot boiling, and that there is no way that this type of outrage is going to go uncontested, that the Serb people will not accept it under any circumstances, and those Serbs who are resisting, who are protesting, who are taking control of certain parts of Kosovo, or who are engaging in mass protests, are doing something that's very important, and we have an obligation to back them up. If, God forbid, the Albanian Muslim Nazis succeed in doing this, they're going to, this is just the first step. They're going to swallow up all of Europe. All of Europe is going to be swallowed up. Do you know that there are 1 billion Muslims waiting to just come into Europe and waiting to come into the United States and swallow up the United States and Europe? I mean, the vast majority of people in the Muslim world, there are, 1 billion 1.2, 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. Some people say even more. The vast majority of them want to leave. They all want to come into Europe and America and swallow up these countries. They hate Europe and America. They envy Europe and America, but they want to come in and take over. Because Europeans and Americans have built advanced modern societies that they could never build. Even with all their oil money, they could never build a modern society. Everything, all the modern things that have been built in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and elsewhere have been built by infidels, have been built by Christians who came in, and unfortunately they shouldn't be doing it. They're traitors, by the way, to work for the Muslim sheiks in Saudi Arabia and other countries. But all of the modern buildings and modern technology and modern factories and other things that you see in places like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Bahrain and all these other hideous places, this was all built by Christian infidels. And they know that, and they don't want to really live. Nobody wants to live there. I mean, Muslims are not so crazy that they want to live in Muslim countries. The vast majority of Muslims don't want to live in the Muslim countries. They want to leave. They can't wait to get into Europe. They can't wait to get into the United States or Canada or other countries. And so, if we have a situation where we allow this to happen, they're going to, they're already, even without an independent Kosovo, they're swallowing up Europe. And now, with their huge birth rates and the illegal and illegal immigration that's going on from third world and Muslim countries, now you're giving them another independent country, another base, another jumping off point which they can use to smuggle more people and more drugs and more narcotics and more of the old horrible things that they've been spreading all over Europe. And this is unbelievable. Everybody in Europe and in America should be thanking the Serb people day and night for what they are doing for us. The Serb people are the only obstacle to a complete Muslim invasion of Europe. And we're stabbing them in the back. It is a disgrace. This is a crime. This is a crime that we're committing not only against the Serbs, we're committing a crime against ourselves. This is a disgrace. We should be thanking the Serb Christians day and night. We should have been applauding and saluting the Serb Christians in the 1990s when they fought to save the Balkans from a Muslim terrorist takeover. We should have been saluting and applauding them instead of doing what all the hideous politicians in America and Europe were doing, condemning them and calling them war criminals. They're war criminals because they're defending their country? They're not war criminals. The American and European animals who went and bombed them were the war criminals. To bomb the Serbs and fight the Serbs when they're fighting just to protect their homeland against Muslim terrorist invaders and illegal aliens. The people who bombed them are the war criminals. The people who are against them are the war criminals. The news media pigs who condemn these heroic Serbs, they are the war criminals. And so we have an obligation to do whatever we can to stand by them and support them, because their fight really is our fight. And so on this program, I just wanted to say thank you to the Serb people. Thank you to the heroic Serb people who turned out for those mass protests in Belgrade. Thank you to the heroic Serb Christians in Kosovo that are trying to stand up for the rights of non-Muslim human beings who are being persecuted and terrorized by Muslims. The Albanian Muslim terrorists want to burn down every church, want to murder all the non-Muslims in Kosovo, and the United States and Europe is supporting them and recognizing their so-called independence. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Thank you to the Serbs. Thank you to the Serbs that have not accepted this. Thank you to the Serbs that will not accept this. Thank you to the Serbs that are fighting back. I want to say thank you and I want to salute you because you are heroes. And you should be thanked. And you should be supported by every decent human being, by anyone who is sane, should be supporting you and supporting you enthusiastically. And if people want to support the Serbs and want to find out more and want to find out how we can try to work to reverse these insane, suicidal American and European policies recognizing Albanian Muslim terrorists in Kosovo, if you want to find out how to do that, join our organization. Shalom.